What's up, guys? Welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of Fresh One, a podcast by BDOutdoors, where we're just going to be basically talking about everything fishing, from the industry to on the water, behind the scenes, everything there is and was in the fishing industry. I'm sitting down here with Nate, Lindsay, and Ricky Fischel.
Let's go.
We all work for BD here, and we figured we'd kick off the podcast with a little episode 1 internal, just guys in the office talking about what's going on this year. So how you guys doing?
I've slept like 4 hours in 3 days, so I'm pretty delirious.
Yeah, it's been a brutal past couple months, but it's been fun.
Ricky broke a fish off at Gaff yesterday, so that's cool for him.
Yeah, I had a heartbreaker this weekend. We stuck the fish. It was like a 120, and I literally gaffed it in the head, and it like jumped out of the water straight off the gaff, and then made a run, and the crimp broke on the treble, and zing pow, see you later.
Was it your fish, client's fish?
It was a client's fish. We hooked one fish that day. Yeah, it was like 3 foot, 2 foot interval. We drove straight into that for like 50 miles, and yeah, that's how it goes.
You got tipped in a fist bump or what?
No fish, no teep.
No fish, no teep.
No, it's been fun though, because it took. Everyone kind of knows it took a while for the season to get started, right? We were kind of just like twiddling our thumbs for a while there at the beginning of this year, wondering if this like bluefin stuff was even going to happen again.
Yeah. Well, me and Ira had a really good trip in April, and that was awesome. You know,
that was like super early season stuff.
Yeah, super early. Those nighttime footballs, limits on our first BD sponsored trip, on the little sinker bombs.
Oh, the Eddie bombs.
Yeah, the Eddie bombs, and then kind of died off for a few months and. Not really, but kind of. And it's been really good the last month or so, huh?
Yeah, it's filled in a lot. Lots of Dorado for a while. Yellowfin moved in. Fishing's really close. I had a couple trips over the weekend. Had a great day, or a really solid day Saturday. And then yesterday was rough. Like all the fish kind of pushed west a little bit. And the boats that chased them out there did well. And all the boats that tried to stay inside and figured out had a rough one. So
I still feel like for as good as it's been like very hit or miss, you know.
Yeah.
You get on the right school, you could be done by 10 a.m. or you can spend all day and scratch a couple fish. You know?
For sure. Yeah.
But it's nice that have options like, you know, like you were saying, the mahi and the yellowfin closer to home. We don't have to run to Cherry Banks 120 miles, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, with you guys running the charter boats on the smaller boats, it's a little bit easier for you guys to cover ground, right?
Yes and no. It depends on what boat I'm on.
Yeah.
If I'm on a 25-foot Parker, it's not going to be a great time.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, I think the guys that are using the bigger center consoles are pretty much as dialed as you can get for that longer distance stuff. Yes, you're in the wind, but I think like getting back at a semi-reasonable hour to get a decent night's sleep is pretty invaluable. And yeah, you could be more comfortable on a bigger yacht or whatever, but for me, I like to get out there fast and get home fast.
Yeah. What did we have that one day trip on the Grande, Ricky? We went all the way down to the Finger to fish for what, three hours maybe, and we and you came out on top, but some other people, they kind of bid it pretty hard.
I mean, it's just tough when that's the only game in town.
Yeah.
And I love sport. I grew up fishing on sport boats. I always loved sport boats, but you go 10 knots everywhere.
Yeah.
And we've been super spoiled the past like month or two. I've gotten to run a couple trips with Nate Ison on the Sea Ripper, which is a 43 Freeman.
Yeah.
It's got 1,600 horsepower, and we go 60 knots.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
It's a little different, and yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the sport boat thing is a lot of fun, and I still love doing it. But it's definitely nice to be able to go places quickly.
Yeah. I mean, you guys know me. I'm worked on the sport boats. Most of my experience fishing is on the sport boats, and it's all like this year's hit or miss because you can't cover as much ground. If you go to where you think they're going to be and they're not.
And it's been bouncing around so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many many days this season, Nate, have you been on really good fishing 2 days in a row in the same spot?
In the same spot, very few days.
But I feel like last year,
Yeah.
you could go to the same general zone and have a good shot. I
Yeah.
just feel like that hasn't been the case this year, especially with that, like, foam on the beach, right?
Yeah, I mean, you get a
But
week.
that's always like that.
Yeah, we got like a solid week, 2 weeks where it was in tight, and even then you had to go out and find it every day. It was never in the exact block, but that's how they are when they hit the beach close. They kind of just plow through all the bait and then dip out. So, yeah, I'm personally I'm stoked on the year we've had. My only super jaded fishing complaint, because we've had awesome fishing for however long now here, is that the big fish have been pretty far.
Well, you caught a 270 early season, like, on the local
That was the
banks.
luckiest thing of my entire
That was
life.
ridiculous.
Yeah, dude. I don't that was right place, right time, just totally random, big fish breezer,
Hey,
not even a lot of fish.
what'd
I
you catch
didn't
that
have
thing
any
on?
kite stuff ready. Wasn't even planning on doing that because I was like pretty close to home, and just Mad Maxed it and caught probably the biggest one of the pack.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a cool day. We got a couple other Mad Mac fish later in the day. But yeah, we were totally unprepared to see those bigger fish that day. They hadn't really been in that zone, so.
It seems like that's like the...
I hate Mad Macking, by the way, for everyone in the audience. But
Just so everyone knows, Nate
yeah,
doesn't like Mad
I'm
Max.
not a fan, but it did work, so.
But these big fish, they're starting to like define San Diego. You've seen Cowtown, San Diego, all this and that. Whereas when I started working on the Prowler, like the biggest tuna we'd ever seen was like 40, 50 pounds. Now it's like
Yeah, I was 14 on a sport boat. I caught a 40-pound bluefin, and I was, like, freaking out.
stoked. Yeah, now it's like what? I mean, in the charter side of stuff, are people upset if they're not seeing triple digits and stuff? Or
So, yes and no. It depends on your group. Like, I know a buddy of mine who I fish with, Brian Bolton, he was running a trip, and apparently, like, he had, like, 3 or 4 people, and the first thing they said when they got to the boat ramp, because they had a 12-hour kite trip, was like, what are the chances we're going to all get a cow today? So there's definitely, like, a misconception on
yeah,
how it's definitely not an automatic thing, and I think something in the fishing world that's changed a lot, I would argue for the worst, but I'm definitely on it, is like social media, right? You go on social media and you just see like big fish, big fish, big fish, big fish, limits, and that does
Yeah.
not give you a clear-cut picture of how hard it actually is.
well, it's funny. That's the same thing with the sport boats, right? Like, so back in the day, it was like fish counts, book my trip. It's not like that anymore. People who are booking trips off fish counts get let down really easily when the boat limit's out the day before, and then the school's gone and moved 15 miles overnight.
I think
you
it's been
know?
a blessing and a curse because, I mean, we are so fortunate to have the stuff here, but yeah, you have these people come out with these expectations, and if a boat's not coming home with limits of bluefin and they don't sell trips on the next time they're out, and then they go kill limits of bluefin, you can't base your trip around what the trip prior was. And with like bluefin especially, I think is the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like a beacon patty where you're going right out to it. You
Yeah,
know it's there.
exactly.
Yeah, you got to temp charge, do your homework, talk to your boys.
At the end of the day, though, like, how cool is it that, like, going back to that story with Brian and, like, the customers expecting that? Like, he did catch 3 big ones that day.
Yeah.
And Brian's a killer fisherman, but, like, that being said, that's, I think people have expectations and they haven't experienced, like, the big fish fishing. And they even get one, and it's like, after that first one they get, they're amped.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you go home with a single, like, 150 to a 200 and you have some other blow-ups and they're not sticking, like, that's a fun day, man.
Yeah.
And I think for anyone, that's worth the money.
That's the other thing. Like, most of the small charter programs now, they're so good, and that
Yeah.
if there is an opportunity that day to capitalize on catching a big fish, you're probably going to get a shot with those guys.
For sure.
They're so friggin' good now.
Yeah. if you go with, like, the Dwaynes or the Wesses or any of those guys, like, those guys have it so dialed that you're really paying for, you're not in that situation with like the top tier operations, you're paying less for like the boat and the gear and the on the water experience as much as you're paying for like their knowledge.
Yeah.
Because there's very few people where you have the opportunity to just watch them do their thing and then you can learn, right? And you're definitely not going to watch those guys fish the kite and then turn around and be able to do it right away, but it's just cool to like see someone who's so dialed he can put a flyer like right where it needs to be, who can see like really, really faint breeze and stuff like that.
And the blow up, of course.
Yeah, and the
Watching
blow ups. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the skill level is pretty insane right now.
So, yeah, with this year, the moving around so much, what's the most you've burned in fuel in a single day?
Oh, a lot. That would be on the Cripper, probably. The Sea Ripper.
Yeah, probably close to 800 gallons.
Wow.
But that's 100, we're fishing Cherry Banks for a while. It's 120 miles from the dock.
Yeah.
And with that thing, you're getting 0.6, whether you're going 20 or 50 or 60. So you might as well go 60 if the conditions, if you can do it safely.
Yeah. That's the coolest boat.
And yeah, and it turns a 12-hour plus run in a sport boat into a 2.5-hour run.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you catch like one or two big ones, you're stoked. And maybe like our one of our better days this year, we had 6 between like 150 and 250.
All kite fish?
All kite fish, yeah. I love kite fishing. I love foamer fishing.
How about a spreader bars? You guys still using those things?
Work.
No.
They still work. You don't cover much ground with them.
Yeah.
I think that's, I don't know. I know.
In my mind, the worst thing, unless you're fishing big fish that absolutely will not eat a kite bait, I hate them.
Yeah.
Because they work, but if you're fishing smaller fish and there's any sign at all and you put back one or two, like the 2 directional spreaders, if you see something, you're stuck going that speed on the way to it. You can't run and get anywhere quick.
It's the same thing with any trolling lure, right? Like you have the thing out so far behind the freaking boat, and anyone who gets told to reel in the troller is bummed.
Yeah.
They're so bummed.
Traditional lures with less drag, like out in Hawaii or whatever, if you're trolling a spread of just feathers and stuff like that, you can rip those in pretty quick.
You're trolling them.
You're not ripping in a Mad Mac or a giant spreader bar. Yeah, it's.
They definitely work though.
Yeah, I haven't fished a spreader bar since early last year, and just being the one to wind it in sucks. And if you catch a fish under 50 pounds, the spreader bar.
The other thing, dude, some of the spreader bites are like really aggressive. Like
they're gnarly.
Dude, it's like a kite bite. But
yeah, I've definitely had spreader bar fish. They work really well. I think I'm just an ADD fisherman.
Yeah,
where I like to see something and be able to go.
Yeah, true.
Also, a lot of our water's been like, especially for the last month, it's just been really green around the whole bite, and it's been dirty with like grass and kelp. So when you're trolling those things through a dirty area, especially with that fish that's on the beach, there's a lot more like just garbage in the water.
Yeah, it wraps up, doesn't swim right.
Yeah, it doesn't swim right, or you're not getting bit and you're rolling it right over a fish's head and you reel it in and it has, a 3-foot kelp stringer on it.
Yeah.
Bit.
Yeah, you're just blowing it.
Yeah. Well, what's up with the foam? We all talk about that in this office quite a bit. Reminisce on the years previous where you'd see massive foam spots that would stick up even for sport boats and stuff. I feel like this year it's been kind of hit or miss. You get like a few days where it'll stay up around you, but for the most part, run and gun. Have you guys seen anything differently recently?
I think it's been definitely worse than it was last year.
Yeah.
Oh, the past 2 years was the best foam fishing I've ever had.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
saying.
saying.
Yeah, I mean, there is.
I think the beach.
Without dropping areas because too many people already know where they've been showing up, but.
The beach stuff has been pretty consistent. It's just it's either up off Laguna or it's up off O-side or it's right out in front of the Mission jetties, and it could be on either any of those 3 locations on any given day. So you got to get lucky. I think a lot of the more consistent foam stuff this year has been up north, and we're based out of San Diego, right? So we haven't really had a lot of good foam locally, and it's been, you know, pretty good around Cat and like up in the Channel Islands. Just far from us. But it's been good. I don't know. I as far as I know, it's been good. I ran up there and fished it once, and it was pretty good. It's just far.
Yeah, how crazy is that, seeing those photos of like Central and Northern California getting better and bigger bluefin than us? Pictures of them underneath the Golden Gate and Santa Barbara.
Yeah, and now the past like week or two, like 250-pound big eye mixing with albacore, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really, cool.
I wish we had those things, which we used to, but we're all too young to.
Yeah.
I never caught a big eye here. You catch a big eye here?
Yes.
You have?
I caught one big eye.
How big was it?
Like, I don't know, 65 pounds.
On like the local banks?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen
I
one.
think it was on the 43. It was in like 2000 Nino.
I think I saw one. It was like 2015.
Yep, that was the
It was
year.
like a Penn-sponsored trip, and it was Steve Carson caught one on. It was like a fly line in the middle of the day. It was like a 40 or 50 pounder.
Of course, it was Steve Carson.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had brought on like a bunch of prototypes. Everyone's fishing the best gear possible, and then he's like freaking out. It's a big eye. I'm like, ooh, cool. That was it.
I didn't even know it was a big eye.
I
thought it was a
tell.
yellowfin.
I couldn't
and
tell.
I was already stoked.
Yeah.
And a couple of people in a row were like, "That's a big eye. That's a big eye." And I looked it up, and my buddy he worked for Scripps, and like came over, and he's like, "Yeah, that's."
Was that on a sport boat?
No.
It was on.
Ricky, how many times I fished sport boats?
Yeah, just asking, man.
No, they're rad. I used to fish sport boats a lot. They're so fun, but I have not been out on one other than with you guys on the Grande, and that was super fun.
What's been your best? I know Ira's sitting behind the lens here.
Yeah.
You guys have been on, you know, quite a few. How many BD sponsored trips?
Yeah, let's see. We've done Pegasus, 2 Apollo trips, Shogun the previous year, and then a Grande trip. Still looking at a Pacifica one in like a week and a half or so. But I mean, so far we've gotten pretty lucky. The Apollo trip out of Long Beach, we didn't fish tuna. We tried for a night, which was kind of a bummer.
But you guys had Epic Islands fishing.
Yeah, Epic
right?
Islands fishing, a lot of halibut.
How is it on a sport boat with everyone fishing halibut? Because like in my mind, I think of like the knife jigging nightmares, and I see like the Instagram pics of like 7 people tangled with food.
Yeah, at the halibut stuff, it's a little more finesse, and I think everyone's a little bit more aware.
Is the tangle factor just wild?
It's there, but it's you're only fishing, and we're off San Nick. We were like 20 feet of water or something, so it's not like there's as much room for tangle. It's still, I mean, I think the part I don't like as much about that style of fishing is that you're kind of just long, slow drifts. And
so lots of beer.
Lots of beer, lots of conversation. You meet some really good people, but I prefer like the run and gun style. Like,
what is your favorite type of fishing to do? For both of you.
For me personally, dude, I just honestly just fly line and a bait. I like patty fishing for sure. Like when night fishing got really big and we started catching a bunch of them around the clock, I was really into it. And then after a while, it's just taxing on the body to be up around the clock fishing. I mean, if you're on a 2.5 day, you're gonna fish the whole time, but you gotta strategically.
I respect the hell out of the guys that stay up all night doing that. I'd rather catch a tuna when the sun's up.
Dude, I mean, I think nothing beats just like light line, patty fishing,
Yeah.
fly line and a bait, surface iron,
Just
something like that.
Just a wide open patty.
Yeah, or when yellowfin used to sit in the corner all day long,
Yeah.
steady picking at them.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's super fun. Sport boat, you guys know, it can be tough. Like when you're, like that Grande trip, we had good fishing there blowing up all around the boat, but it was like, you really needed to pick the best possible bait, and you had all the stars had to align for it to work out.
How rad was that one older gentleman who had like, I don't know if you remember him, but he was just like old, right? He was like 80, and he was just posted in the corner the whole trip. Never shimmied to one side or the other. He was just like, nope, I'm in the corner. And he just tangled everyone, but he was stoked.
Yeah. See that? I mean, that's the thing.
That's gonna be me, dude.
Well, that's the thing with the sport boat fishing too, right? Not everyone knows the program, so it's kind of on the deckhands or whoever just to be like, "Yo, tuna shuffle."
It's just that on sport boats, especially, it's the best representation of like 10% of the guys catching 90% of the fish.
Yeah.
And on that trip was especially apparent when it wasn't bad fishing by any means, but you had to pick a good bait. You had to, you had to know how to fish a live bait well, and you would get a bite.
Yeah.
You get a couple bites. But it's the same 5 or 6 people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, some of my best fish personally have come in night bites, but like, it's not super technical. You're just dropping a heavy knife jig straight down.
When you're fishing with a sinker, like, I don't know, to me that just, it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, I get it gets bit, but there's something about it that I'm just like, it's 3 a.m. and I'm tired and like, I'm fishing with a sinker right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to
they've
bed.
They've made it technical, like,
the
speed jigging
No, it is,
guys.
it is
Yeah.
technical.
No,
Yeah,
the
you
Eddie
can
bomb
make
is
it
not-
technical, but the fact of the matter is, homies are getting bit on the sinker. like probably as much as the $80 vertical jig.
Yeah, that's
times.
tough. I couldn't imagine being like testing for one of those big companies, like engineering a really nice knife jig, and then here comes a 16-ounce lead sinker getting bit even more. That's tough.
Slap on a 3-foot leader and slap and put a $70 price tag.
Yeah, the
on
landing's
it.
selling them for $70 rigged up. It's man,
and it works.
It works.
And it works.
But I mean, yeah, like, so if anyone is listening to this who came on any of our sponsored trips, like we fish around the clock. Ira's running around with the camera. Like, we don't, if there's fish around, we're not sleeping. And even on that Shogun trip last year, it was a 4-day trip. They were like, I had a stateroom with the guy and he didn't sleep. Like, I never saw him in the bunks once. He was up on the rail.
You know who sleeps really well on sport boats?
Ira.
Ira needs his beauty sleep, dude.
20 hours a day.
Does he have like a full Lulu
and then
for the sport boat?
he gets up and he catches a freaking cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, in his Lululemons, dude.
Yeah, I've been telling him he's been spoiled on all these trips, and he's doing a great job with all of our video and all our content stuff here. So I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I'm a
Makes
fan.
us look way cooler than we are, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, if he's got to take a nap, I'll let him take a nap.
Yeah. Wait, so, I mean, you guys, though, do you prefer, I know, Ricky, you like throwing a popper, huh? Is that your favorite style?
I feel like that's Nate's deal. I like, Nate's always throwing a popper. I like
lots of casting lures.
Me too. I like surface iron yellowtail fishing.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite.
I love bluefin fishing, but like bird school, run and gun, yellowtail fishing, they pull just hard enough, but not like, I pulled on a bluefin on a jig stick for like 2 hours before. It's not fun.
Yeah, fighting bluefin. So the perfect scenario, right, if you're running a trip, is foam fishing tuna and hooking and handing.
Yeah.
That's just like the dopamine express.
Even with the kite bite.
You're like, you see them, you're stoked, you cast, you hook one, okay, I don't want to fight it.
Yeah.
And it's perfect.
I feel similarly when you're kite fishing. Like, dude, if you get to wind into a bite, and then I guess you want to reel it in, like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Those things pull hard, man.
I mean, that's the same feeling too. Like when you're on a rent rod charter on a sport boat. If I'm working deck, I'm literally just taking each rod, hooking the bait, throwing it out. None of us love fighting fish. Yeah.
It's just if I hook an 80-pounder on a long rod, if you want to reel on it, be my guest.
Yeah. I mean,
Depends on the rod too.
The average person isn't pulling as many fish per year as we do, though. So I think some people will be like, "Oh, why would you not want to fight it?" But I guess maybe some of those people haven't pulled on a 200-pounder on a 10-foot jig stick.
No, it's not. It's
not
long-winded.
ideal. Yeah.
I mean,
and your reel, right? Like another thing is like 2-speed reels for bluefin. Learn to cast a 2-speed conventional reel because that's gonna make your life so much easier once you hook one of those.
What's the biggest fish you've caught on a jig stick?
Not giant actually that I've landed, like 120.
Yeah, I'd say similarly.
Definitely hooked. So I was with Jared Davidson. We took out the boat that he runs, the Tigris, and on the way to Catalina, it was a year or two ago. All the fish were on the 499, and we came across a big foamer, and I just ran up to the bow and grabbed the first rod I saw, and it was like my 100J with a, it was like a Torium. So it was like my yellowtail setup. And yeah, I hooked a big one. It was like high hundreds. The reel just exploded. All the cork on my rod was just gone, and after an hour and 45 minutes, Jared like was about to go get the scissors and just snip it.
Yeah.
And we lost it. So it was not the right gear, but that probably would have been a little bigger.
Yeah. No, I've definitely hooked like close to 200-pound fish on the jig stick, and you have no chance.
Yeah.
I mean, some guys can do it, and have done it, but like I know Dwayne fishes the Saltiga 40 2-speed, and if you learn to cast those, you have a much better chance when you hook up a triple-digit fish. I know him on the next podcast here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you guys like episode 1, wait for episode 2. Have some heavy hitters coming in to talk mostly about bluefin fishing. I mean, if they're going to get their fix at bluefin fishing, we should probably talk about something else.
So basically, anything we're talking about fishing-oriented, listen to the next guy that's on over us.
Yeah,
I mean, we're not talking like...
No.
Yeah, they'll talk.
But yeah, there's going to be some really good content on that one.
I mean, this podcast alone, we're going to be covering so much stuff. I'm really excited, get some chefs in here, some apparel companies, tackle companies, everything, production companies to talk about the behind-the-scenes stuff for some of the films and stuff we produce, Lucky Bee, Escape North. If you guys haven't checked those out, you should go check those out.
Yeah.
Would love to have the Hager Pirate guys on. We have a clothing collaboration with them. It's live in our store right now. It's pretty cool designs. You want to learn about the inside of the apparel business too, because that's so funny. The fishing industry is like there's so many legs to it, right? Like
it's alive and well.
Yeah.
As I've been to Fred Hall when I was way younger, and we worked all the trade shows this year, and dude, it's insane.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at the next year's trade shows today. Yeah, I don't know. PCS was pretty awesome.
I mean, they're fun. They're exhausting.
Yeah.
You meet a ton of people.
They're really exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
You see how many freaking people love fishing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I remember when we were younger, we're all like pretty similar age.
The seminars are cool too.
Seminars are great, but you used to be a weirdo if you fished.
Yeah.
And
For sure. Yeah.
And now it's the cool thing to do.
Yeah, I personally started fishing with my dad way before, 6, albacore.
And you're like, what, 45 now?
Yeah. If I'm 45, I'm looking good, dude. No, 46.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a whole different thing. Again, social media.
Yeah.
Fishing became cool.
True, social media, for sure. Yeah, because, I didn't grow up fishing. I, fished a few times. It was just working on a sport boat, which brought me into liking fishing as a hobby sport, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, now it's it's really, really common to see Groms riding around Encinitas with rods on their bikes and stuff. They're at the beach with a rod and a board. Whereas when I was a kid, I don't really remember ever seeing a kid with a fishing rod. It was.
It's great, but at the same time, all my fishing spots are burnt out now.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, I liked it more. If the fishing could have been like it is now, back in the day, that would have been wild.
That might also play into it too, right? The fishing's been pretty good the last 5 or so years. So people
fishing in San Diego's been good for a long time. It's just
different.
Just different.
Yeah.
The yellowtail fishing used to be awesome, and it still is. But we always had the yellowtail fishing. We had the albacore stuff. We had yellowfin. We had a lot of the same stuff. And I think a good test of if you actually like fishing or if you just like the hey look, I caught a big fish type deal, the validation of it and the attention is, do you like rock fishing? I love rock fishing. I love going out
and I love eating
the bite and reeling up a red and hell yeah, I have good fish tacos in my future. I think that's as fun as anything. You know what I mean? It's a blast to get out there. And a lot of people are, I don't want to rock fish. I don't want to do that. And they just want to kite fish for big bluefin. It's like, why? Because they're big?
Fishing.
Yeah.
It is rad. And it is my favorite type of fishing. But I like it all.
Gotta appreciate
What about when your friend asks you to take him kite fishing and you take him kite fishing and you hook one and pulls on it for 2 minutes and he goes, I can't do this. And then you got real.
You just don't take him again.
And then
you make him pay for gas.
Misses the invite on the next trip.
Man.
Yeah.
I remember that my first year being a deckhand, there was like some bigger fish coming around, and we had like an older group of people.
Dude, it's brutal.
And our night driver wakes up from his midday nap. He's like, "What the fuck? Why are all my deckhands fighting fish? Like, why aren't they working?" We're like all scattered. Passengers didn't want to fight the fish whatsoever, and I'm like, oh shit, someone needs to throw bait. Like, what are we doing? We've been, oh my God. But I don't know. It's kind of like,
we weren't prepared. No one was prepared. No one had the right gear, dude. We were pulling on like 100-pound fish on 40-pound setups.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, if like everyone's like, oh, it's a 100-year cycle. Is it though? Like, were people even really looking? I mean, I guess if it was around like it is now, obviously people would see it.
Yeah.
But also, like, it wasn't really being targeted the same way. I'm sure there were spots of bigger
I
fish.
know Ollie and Dwayne and Robbie are going to talk about it a little bit in the next episode.
They talk about it in the next episode.
But, you know, it's supposed to have ended by now, or at least, like, tapered off. And earlier this year, we were afraid of that. But, dude, there's a ton of fish around. There's fish all the way from freaking northern Baja to Oregon almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, dude, there's no shortage of fish. Maybe it's more spread out than it has been in years past, but they're still here.
Yeah. Baja. That's like the lure, right? Everyone around the U.S. comes to Southern California, goes down to Baja. You guys had a trip somewhere down there a couple months ago, right?
Dude, I love Baja.
Was it like 150 degrees or?
No, man. It's great, especially if you go late spring or early fall or any time in the fall, honestly. And the water's always a little bit warmer. The air's always a little bit warmer. You're going to get sunburnt. And the fishing is off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for Nate's birthday, we went down to Loretto.
It was biting.
When I feel badass. When was that?
April.
Yes, we were down there.
That was that long.
We were down there in April, and it was like a
God.
little chilly in the evenings and freaking hot.
Yeah.
And we had one.
It was nice. It was like 80.
It was great, dude, and we had insane fishing. Like, it was great, and
We had like 20 something. What? How many yellows? About like 10.
yeah, probably like 20 plus
Yeah.
on knife jigs in 300 feet of water.
Yeah.
But the day prior,
Dude,
Oh,
we're
here we
talking
go.
about fighting big fish. That was almost as gnarly.
Yeah, that's funny.
300-foot yellowtail bites.
I mean, it's the same,
over
right?
and over and over.
You can have a shitty
It
day
was
of fishing
rad.
in Baja still. Like, it's not, you're going to go down there and have lights out fishing every time, but it's so much less pressured. I feel like there's a lot more opportunity, and a lot of the coastline is really, I mean, it's all fishable, but there are so few towns scattered up and down, you know, that...
How about that Rancho Leonero trip we did last year? That was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when you
super fun.
When you gaffed me in the
yeah. When I gaffed you in the leg, there was a lot of stuff.
It was a lot of fun.
That
That was a great trip.
Let's see the breakdown on that. 'Cause that was pretty awesome.
I don't know why our AC is not working here, but it's getting freaking hot. Let me figure this out. We'll see.
So yeah, Cam gaffed his leg. It was rad.
Yeah. So Ricky, Big Dorado coming.
Big Dorado.
Jesse's fighting it, and the deckhand lays his backup gaff on top of the stern.
Yeah, on the gunnel there.
Yeah, and I thought he put it there because he was going to need some help, right? He leans over and sticks this thing, and it's kind of flopping like crazy. So I grabbed the gaff to help him.
Was it flopping like crazy?
Yeah,
I don't know,
was it
man.
flopping like crazy though?
Okay, let's take a step back
Head
and
gaffed.
see what had happened, though.
Let's see. This is like 9 in the morning, maybe.
Yeah, I was probably 8 to 10 deep, and I didn't have breakfast.
That means like 12.
Didn't have breakfast. So in my mind, this guy needed help. That guy needed help.
It was like a 40-pound Dorado.
It was a big Dorado, big fish. And he was one of the little gaffs, you know? So I was like, grab the second one, but Ricky's standing right next to it. Pumped it right through his leg. Through and through, though. Pretty clean. Not enough no permanent damage. No surgery.
Yeah, missed my Achilles by about a half an inch.
Yeah, that was.
It was a good gaff.
It was a good shot.
It was a good gaff. But I like felt like a pinch, and I just looked down, and I look up at Cam, and I go, "You just gaffed me."
Oh shit! Popped it out when we switched some hydrogen peroxide in it, and then
you did a good job going full medic mode.
Yeah,
on
to go
for
EMT
sure.
mode. The adrenaline really straightened your head out.
And the horchata.
Yeah, and then luckily
Uno más horchata.
I climbed up in the
Ricky.
tower and spent the rest of the day with the captain in the tower.
Yeah, that was.
How was that too on the one trip where he just let me and Ricky drive the boat?
That
I don't know the offshore banks of Loreto.
Yeah,
That was
Or no,
gnarly.
Rancho.
yeah, that was.
Or
unique.
either of them.
Yeah, we had a unique trip because it was like post hurricane, so the first couple of days was real dicey, and then
He's like, find fish.
Remember
I was
the
like,
one day?
Okay.
Me and
Buoy. There's buoy over there. I saw a marlin jump. Let's hit it.
I think we must have driven in 30 circles around that buoy, which
Yeah.
sometimes works.
how
but-
about the kayak? Remember the two Dorado?
Dude,
that
you
swam
hooked a
underneath?
Dorado on
I
a
hooked
kayak.
a nice Dorado on the kayak, broke it off.
Yeah.
Dude, and there were like 25-pound jacks swimming everywhere, like
Yeah,
right in
that
front of the
was fun.
resort.
And then the surf fishing too, driving up and down the beach in the ATVs. And,
Yeah, we caught a bunch of Pargo and Cabria.
yeah.
But the one day we fished by the lighthouse in the surf, we didn't get there till like noon, and it was like 100
Oh,
degrees
that was
out.
tough. Yeah, running down the beach.
Yeah, that was funny.
Running down
Running down the beach. Oh man, sitting.
Cam, yeah.
I don't think we hooked a single fish.
I hooked one right after I charred.
Oh, Ira caught a ladyfish.
Yeah.
We were all
You
yelling
would
at
catch a ladyfish.
Only lady he's caught all
Oh,
year.
dude.
Ira caught a nice ladyfish. We saw some roosters. We didn't catch any. Oh, dude. I caught my first rooster fish in Baja this year.
Ricky caught a nice one on the pickle cake.
On
On
the
a
pickle
swim
cake.
bait. So we were fishing yellows. So this was the day before the knife jig fishing, and for whatever reason, like it switched within 24 hours. But the day prior, it was all service actions. We're fishing irons, but they were keyed in on these like pipe fish. Like
That was so weird.
they're like trumpet fish, almost like 6-inch reddish kind of trumpet fish, and we had a lot of opportunity. Like we were on bird school after bird school, and it wasn't. There's AC. It wasn't biting the jig super well, and we would hook like where we should have hooked like 5, we would hook like 1 for every 5 shots we had, which should have been really good. And we're like, all right, what the heck? Like, what are we doing wrong? And our buddy Brian Tim flew in the day after us, and he had a bunch of swim baits with him. And Nate and I don't own any swim baits. Like, maybe we fish spotted bait bass every once in a while, but we didn't bring any swim baits down to Loreto.
Yeah.
You don't fish generally plastic baits in Baja because everything in Baja has teeth, and they will be destroyed instantly.
Yeah.
So anyways, Brian brought down some of these weedless swim baits that Kicker makes, the pickle kick, and
Pickle cake.
they have a pink one, and it looks exactly like a trumpet fish. And we started fishing those, and it was freaking lights out every cast.
That's funny.
It really was.
Like boat side eats, these things were.
Except for my dad. My dad's like, I'm sticking with the surface off.
No, dude.
And he caught one like 5 feet from the boat.
Nate's
That's
dad was
funny.
fucking smoking
He was
him.
roping them.
And then he
funny.
tied on the PK, and he was still roping him.
Yeah, he's just.
But anyways, later that day, it started blowing like 25, and we were like 30. We were at an island like 30 miles offshore, and we were like, okay, we need to get back in, at least closer to the beach before it gets like really gnarly. Like it was snotty. It was really bad. And in the East Cape there's no really swell generally, but the wind waves were like 4 foot.
Really.
I was blowing.
As well.
When it blows from the south there, it gets really gnarly.
Yeah.
And so we ran inside, and we were fishing with one of Nate's buddies, Evan. He was like, yeah, we were catching roosters here, or big yellows here last week. So, we were out of the wind a little bit. And so we were just kind of sitting around, just like glassing. And Evan like freaks out all of a sudden. He's like, oh, like birds go for yellows, like tweaking out. And so we jam over there. Like, I'm pretty sure Nate's dad had a bait in the water, and Evan's like, Rich, reel your bait in. And before he even finished his sentence, we were going like 30 knots. Everyone's falling over. Anyways, we get up to this bird spot, and we were like, are those yellows? And it was a school of like 30 to 40 pound roosters, like foaming.
Wow.
Yeah, surface feeding on mackerel or whatever. And earlier that day, I had broken the knob off of my handle, so it was just like a metal. It was just like the metal piece, but
stick,
the little
but
stick,
actual,
dude.
Yeah.
But all, like the rest of our stuff was tied up to fish like bait. And so Brian picks up, I don't know, Nate was soaking a bait on the wrong side of the boat or something. And Brian ran up to the bow. And Brian casted like a mini service iron.
I was bit, dude.
Nate was not bit.
I was hanging too.
Nate was definitely not bit. And I grabbed my broken reel, and it had the swim bait still tied on, and I cast it, and I was like grinding this thing back to the boat, and they were chasing it and tracking it down. But I didn't get a bite, and then I got, luckily, like I got a second cast. And I was burning it back. They were still following it. They wouldn't eat it. And so I just like stopped the bait. And I got smoked. And then Brian hooked one on the service iron. We landed 2 of them off that spot. And they were both like 30, 35 pounds.
Oh, really?
The first rooster I ever caught was awesome.
I was sleeping
Yeah.
for that.
Having a little nap.
Yeah, I missed the whole thing pretty much.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and was a little out of it, and I went to release a rooster, and it was kind of still attached to a jig.
It was very attached to the jig still. Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
still attached to it.
Well, he got to fight it again.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. And those are like pretty fragile fish, I think, you know, so we're handling them quick, take a picture, get them back in the water.
Yeah, me and Nate got a slice of that in Panama.
Oh, yeah, you guys were in Panama.
That place was radical.
That was nuts.
Middle of nowhere, Jurassic Park. I almost died.
You did. Nate got
Sickest I've ever gotten in my life, which was
Yes.
a bummer.
Yeah, I had to fish
You
by
guys got
myself
to
one
go
day.
to like so many people's dream fishing trip.
Yeah.
But I legitimately missed like 60% of it. Because it was rad.
So you had the
I was-
runs.
No, dude, it was much more than that. Cam will attest.
Yeah, it was like
I was on like my last couple days of life.
Yeah, it was tough. Like it was like seeing someone with Bali Belly or Montezuma's Revenge, but like amped up. But yeah, most people when they go out down there, they don't get it. We were at
I mean,
Tropic Star
that's the
Lodge
risk
and-
you take when you travel, and it's
Yeah.
happen.
I mean,
if
I
you
should-
travel enough,
yeah.
it's gonna happen to you. And
I
Yeah.
shouldn't have been eating all those berries off those random trees.
Yeah, I mean, we were deep in the jungle. That Tropic Star is what, like, you fly into Panama City, and then you take, like, it was like an hour or 2 hour flight.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 50 minutes or something, puddle jumper into, like, the middle of nowhere
Jurassic
jungle.
Park.
Yeah, it was insane.
I can't even imagine.
But the
super jealous.
The yellowfin was awesome, and then, of course, the roosterfish tournament was dope.
And everything's close, right? Like you don't have to run like 60 miles, right?
No.
It's all
No,
right out
you're
of
like
front.
fishing right off
Yeah,
the shore.
right.
Even the
there.
tuna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tuna. So one of the
Maybe
things
2
about
miles.
we were there
No
for the
way.
Yeah.
we were there for the roosterfish tournament, which was awesome. But we would see tuna, and the captains wanted to just catch roosters. So
Yeah.
it was tough at times because Cam and I were like, let's just go fish all that
Yeah.
foam out there.
Yeah, I mean, with the tournament, the crews were incentivized to win the tournament, which I totally get. But yeah, the ADD fisherman and us was like, oh,
Yeah.
like, we got a couple today.
Slow
Look at all
troll
that.
or foamers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, that place was the most insane trip.
I think we're running out of time here.
But yeah, we're running low on time. I'm super stoked. We got episode 1 in, the Fresh One podcast. I don't know if you guys know this. You should know this if you fish. But
Yeah, there you go. Explain the name.
every time you
and
catch a
then we'll
fish,
get outta
especially
here.
on a sport boat, it's Fresh One. You just first, you just hooked a fish. We're not saying fish on. I don't really know. It's like an Alaska thing.
Hook up.
Right? Hook up, maybe. Yeah,
Fresh
biter.
one.
Fresh.
Biter, but yeah, Fresh One seems to be the
Or you just say, I have a fish.
Biter.
yeah, Fresh One podcast. We got a lot of stuff coming for you this year. So
Yeah, next up you got Ali, who's the CEO of BD, Dwayne.
That guy's pretty chill. Heard about him.
Dwayne of Pinnacle and Robbie Gant from Avco. They're going to talk about some bluefin fishing. And
yeah,
I think we got a couple more weeks left here of it. I hope so, at least. So look forward to that. And yeah, stay tuned for some more goodies down the line here. We're going to get some good stuff going here.
Yeah.
So
See ya.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.